So I'm gonna start with you, Malik. You've been a photographer for over 20 years. Is that the case? So can you talk a little bit about how hip hop and specifically how Video Music Box has influenced you as a photographer and artist?
I feel spotlighty. Well, to tell you the truth, to start as an artist, I was just a straight b-boy, you know what I mean? So I didn't turn to photography. I was a b-boy and a skater, you know, and then I didn't hit photography until I was 15 and I needed a summer job. So, you know, my mom knew someone that kind of hooked me up. But what it has done to me is I sort of kind of carried that graffiti artist kind of thing over into my art as a photographer. So I kind of always saw in that kind of style, and Video Music Box was always like the continuous source of information. You know what I mean? It was always like, you know, that was home. You know what I mean? I can go home and then turn on my little black and white I had in my room, and with the pliers, and see it. And I saw, you know, my people. That's why like my piece is called Black Box, because it was like, these are reflections of me, you know, out there, what I wanted to do and what, you know, the look that I wanted to have, and, you know, everything. So it was like always like the reference, you know, the source, and always able to go back to that and say, oh yeah, that's, you know, what's going on now? What's the new, you know, thing? What's the new style? What's the new word? Like I heard say before, you know, but basically that's what it was, the source.
Anyone else want to?
Well, I grew up listening to hip-hop music, like literally grew up with hip-hop music. And so when I became a photographer, I was actually studying jazz photography, just, you know, dabbling in books. I studied film in school, and then I realized that you could tell stories with photography as well. And through looking at the jazz photography, I said, wow, I could do this with hip-hop culture. And so I really got my first my first photography work in the field of hip hop, just in the 90s, when it was very different, you know, like you just be walking down the street and there's Method Man and you're taking a picture, you know, and going to like the Palladium, and like my whole world was like the Palladium, you know, Mars, all these different places where it was like, I wasn't around during that time, but it was the 60s for me, where I'm sure, you know, James Brown and this one, you know, they were having conversations, and I feel like that's how the 90s was. And so that was me in the middle, just documenting everything. And as far as Ralph McDaniels, I remember he came to my school to do Video Music Box at Stony Brook. And I got to do my little, I want to give a shout out to everybody in Brooklyn, and became like the local celebrity on my block. But that day, I knew I wanted to be in entertainment. I wasn't sure. At this point, I wasn't a photographer. I knew that I wanted to do something in entertainment. So I was one of those people who was like, you know, if I see somebody, I'm gonna ask them, you know. So I told him, I said, you know, I would love to do an internship with you. And he gave me his card, and I called him, and like on my next break home, I had an interview with him, and I got my first job working on a music video through Ralph McDaniels. Oh, wow. And ever since then, it's always been like sometimes I don't even know if he remembers that story, but he knows my face. So he would always just, you know, it was all love. And I know that so many people came up through that type of love and support, you know, for young people just trying to do their thing. And so the work in the show, I have this video over here, which is kind of a dedication to hip-hop lyrics. So I just asked random people, what is your favorite hip-hop quotable, and pieced together all of these quotes, because I feel like hip-hop culture, the actual content of the music could be, like you have to think about the grade levels. I took Rakim into the classroom, and we had to really break it down. Like you can't not know how to read and understand Rakim's lyrics. So I wanted to kind of play with that idea with this film. And then I have a series, I'm working on a series of African hip hop. So I'm just really inspired as how hip hop has traveled around the world, and, you know, going to West Africa and really interviewing artists and just getting a grasp of the culture there. It's so interesting to see how the influences of hip hop is there, but then even the influences of Africa in hip hop. So it's like this cross-cultural connection, and it's an amazing project that's coming along. And then finally there's one piece of African Bambaataa that is just during my early days. This is probably like my second year as a photographer, and it's a symbolic piece about just, you know, how hip hop brought peace to the community. That particular photo was taken at Q-Tip and someone from Rex and Effect got into a fight, and someone was punched in the face. And this meeting was about bringing peace between the two of them. So at this meeting, they all came together. You had the Nation of Islam, everyone from, you know, African Bambaataa, you see Crazy Legs. All of the hip hop community came out to have peace between these two brothers, and it was an amazing event. So I was just happy to be there and be able to, you know, now share the story with you all, just to see like how strong hip hop was back then.
Hey, could I grab that for a second? Okay. I just want to add something to that, because it's funny you're talking about like the early beginnings. So one day back in 19 years ago, I called Delphine and I said, yeah, I'm working with this clothing company. I'm the PR director, and I need your help with something. She's like, well, what is it? And I was like, I need you to take some photographs of this rap group. I think they're gonna be big, but but just believe in me. Just do me this favor. So she meets me in Brooklyn Heights. So we're waiting, and then like a Toyota Camry pulls up, and jumping out of the Toyota Camry is Lauryn Hill and Wyclef and Croswell, before anyone really cared or knew who they were. And we spent the whole day shooting the Fugees in Brooklyn Heights. And it was a weird experience, looking back on that, because, just in the bagel shop, like, what do you want, Lauren? I don't know, I want to coffee, And then, just a few years later, she wins like 8 Grammys, and, the rest is history, you all know that. But that's what she's kind of talking about. There was this magical period of time in the 90s that it just seemed that you could be anywhere and meet anyone, and there was no barriers or pretense. I just wanted to share that because I always think about that story.
I think my first experience with Video Music Box was like when I was maybe like 8 or 9 years old, and I used to play on the block. And after school, I would hang out at the neighbor's apartment, and we'd watch cartoons all night. All afternoon. And I was really into my cartoons, and I'd get really upset when somebody would turn off DuckTales and then turn to Video Music Box. But then, eventually I just got used to it, and like the intro, the 5 minutes of funk, it became hypnotic, and it was something that I just kind of got in the groove with, and I saw it as just a vessel to be able to see hip-hop culture. And at like 8, 9 years old, I really didn't have any other opportunity to see that kind of thing. So it just became just a source of entertainment that focused on hip-hop and things that I was interested in and people who looked like me. And it became very inspirational. And like over the years, I've seen some of my favorite music videos on Video Music Box, and just even the behind-the-scenes footage at the clubs with the artists. That was stuff I couldn't see at 8, 9 years old in the club. So it was really awesome, and it wound up influencing me in terms of including hip-hop and visual art together.